And you also have the ability, a lot of the other thing that's happened with it, of course, is just the volumes of data now. Getting out and grinding to that result is so tricky. And if you're not looking for the bits where you've got missing data or you don't have complete information, and at the same time is also knowing...
No, it's about job preservation. And you have a lifetime job, why would you risk it? There's no upside.
Brilliant analysts.
The highest paid guy is $1 million. Highest paid CEO of Sony, CEO of whatever.
But this builds in some of the...
My boss who wants 25% of SoftBank, but that's different. But the salaries are less than $1 million.
Very simple.
So why would you risk your job? So one is money, obviously.
Enough data. Yes, data will never be 100%.
There's no culture of ESOPs or employee stock option plans or any of that.
The point is that what we are doing today is more or less random or gut feel or intuition. And there is always enough data to make it better than what we are doing right now in terms of decision making, whether it is as individuals what we make decisions we make in our own lives, or as enterprises the decisions they make, or governments, right? All of us can make better decisions with the data that's already available. Yes, there's that future where data is be perfect and complete, etc. But you don't have to get to that. I think there's plenty of
more
stuff to do
specific.
today. I think this is more of an excuse for not to do
Alibaba. It's exponential, yeah? It becomes a monopoly.
People say, okay, let me first figure out the data.
How will it be survive? China has really hurt itself by allowing Alibaba.
In 2020, I will have machine learning. I think it's a wrong approach because there's always enough
they become so big
that exists in the
For example, there's no fintech in Japan.
We are short on time, so I'm going to just ask each of the panelists to end with
to start fintech in Japan.
One point. Either talk about what you think is the most path-breaking innovation you see in the space, or give a message to the audience on what they need to get onto the right curve from a big data adoption standpoint. So you can pick whether it's an example or advice.
Because they're good investors, they say.
We'll start from Rex.
I was looking for the other end. I don't want to be so preachy. Look, I think it was a terrific point. I think the fact is people wait too long to do these things, and right now is the time to be getting into it. The big thing I would mention to people is, really sort of work through where you're going to find the people to help you out with this, because it is a tricky field. There's a lot of people putting a lot of time and energy into things and not necessarily getting the results they want. And but it is the time to do it. The longer you wait, and the longer you wait for everything to be perfect, the more that someone's going to get the jump on it. When you consider that we've been working with certain companies for years, and you think of the maturity now, it's time to get in and give it a go.
How are we?
I
keep talking to
find the right people to do this.
Nitin and also Ravneet lately.
I mean, I'll just make a very generic point, which is all the clients we talk to, they need to understand the problem that they're specifically trying to solve sometimes, rather than it being a technology-led project or somebody's kind of pet thing, or even run by the data section, data scientists. You have to have that clear business sponsorship and understand, you've got enough, you do have enough data, you probably do have the technology, does exist already to solve that problem. The clarity or focus on the business problem matters much more than all of the other, questions that you have.
I remember.
That's a great point. I'll just tell you a small example of a company that we've been working with, which is 200 years old.
He was not old. He's 57 today. That was 10 years ago.
Very successful,
2006.
obviously, for having survived 200 years, but it's a market-leading company in its space.
ZTV, NDTV.
They were obviously they're pretty unsophisticated as far as analytics is concerned. And they decided to be on that journey. And one of the things that they tried to do was to automate their business reviews. This seems very simple, but given how successful they are in a decentralized fashion, they have different metrics about how the business is doing in different parts of the world. And what they tried to do was to say that, okay, let's look at the same metrics across the entire 200 different countries that we
still the bridge, Namrata?
And if the CEO flies from New York to that location, he should see exactly the same metric in Turkey as in, let's say, in Latin America or something like that. And it's been a fantastic journey to see that this one thing, this automated business reviews, has catalyzed the company into action. First of all, they've got that in place, and now they're starting to institutionalize it. But then they've began that journey where they're trying to do more and more stuff using analytics. So I think the point is that I think even a 200-year-old company can start this journey, can get super results because of starting somewhere. So I think it's about starting somewhere, like I think Rex pointed out. And it certainly starts with by saying, here's the problem statement, here's a decision I could do better with data, and then get started in a small step.
Great. No, thanks. I think we will open the field for questions and maybe do a question. Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Over there and over there.
Hi. First of all, Arjun, can I say I'd forgotten how sexy you were? My question is actually about consumerization of big data. Do you see a world where, since if I've been shopping at a retail store for the last 10 years, some of the data belongs to me. Do you see a world where that big data engine can be turned back towards the consumer so that I can make better decisions? So maybe the next time I'm buying a car, I don't just compare car features, but I actually compare my driving behavior over the last 10 years and I'm able to make a different choice. Do you see that happening already, or is that something you could see happening in the future?
Yes, it's already happening. I mean, example is Fitbit, giving you really, really actionable information on how well you're doing in terms of fitness and tracking your health parameters. If you look at the Microsoft Health Band, as I think some 11 or 12 sensors. On the personal health front, I think there's a tremendous amount of stuff going on helping us make better decisions. But I do see this happening if you look at all the fintech companies that are trying to aggregate data across your bank accounts and credit cards and helping you make better choices in terms of spend decisions and stuff like that. I think there is certainly that is one of the big trends where as consumers, I think there'll be enough data for us to make better decisions on our own lives using analytics. I think that's already happening, but will happen more.
Absolutely. So, I mean, use the example of, we always work with retailers, and we don't own any of the data. It's the retailer's data. The next step in the journey is who owns all the data about you. There's lots of companies trying to piece together different variations of how they can make that happen, so they can make it an end customer journey or an end customer conversation about it is your data. And it is a fascinating field in which it conveys back to that point. Really interesting space.
Okay, maybe we have a few more questions, so let's try to cover it. Okay.
Yeah. First, I'd like to just thank everybody. It was an excellent panel and very useful. Clearly, this whole big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, call it whatever flavors, is going to be very big over the next 10 years at least. And depending on who you look at, pick up any number of trillions of dollars of value. But the question I'd have to the panelists is, on the whole, is the rise of this whole big data and artificial intelligence a positive or a negative for a country like India? And I'm asking because, given and coincidentally, I was coming here and I was reading on the tube, reading a research report which actually said most large corporates, and this was based on a survey, actually prefer either companies like IBM or Accenture as their preferred partner for these type of innovative areas and new areas as compared to the Indian companies which they found much lower, they're not a partner of choice in there, so there's a risk in that respect. Also, the whole labor arbitrage comes down. And the third reason being that whole area of, people are talking of like 350 million jobs are going to get, or 400 million jobs are going to get eliminated by robots and all, things like call centers and all. So, because of, the dramatic shift it does and the way it changes the whole labor equation, is this whole thing, in your view, net a positive or negative? It's going to happen, I get it, but for a country like India, is it a positive or a negative?
Well,
Please.
It's a positive, right? I mean, it's simple as that. India will own this field if it hasn't already. Everyone that worked for me, I looked at them, looked at where they were, 25, 26-year-old Delhi School of Economics, IIT graduates. I looked at every one of them, particularly the ones that we've had for a fair period of time, and I'm but their shoelaces at the same age. They're cleverer than me, they just worked harder than I did at school, even though I've got a PhD, good PhD too, by the way. I just want to make sure I'm no mug. But you look at that wave and you just extrapolate that out 15, 20 years and watch where all of the alumni of my industry, of my firm, and you look at where they end up around the world and you watch where that goes. And then in terms of an industry component, the BPM, the so forth, it'll evolve into this higher end spec, in my humble opinion. I see it as nothing but a positive. And I see every road of brilliant education, culturally, everyone driving their children into quantitative fields at early ages, which is not happening elsewhere. Everything's, the die is already cast for it to be a brilliant thing in terms of an outcome for India. That's my humble opinion, for what it's worth.
Obviously, I'll just add on the I mean, definitely it definitely is positive. On the technology front, I think it's really important. We just talked about Google open sourcing TensorFlow. We just talked, a lot of the technologies that are available in this, if it's Elastic or if it's Hadoop, whatever, it's open source. And I think that it's really changed this. It's really not about the technology, right? And so it doesn't have to be built in India technology. I think it has to be built in India expertise in data science. And again, not just the expertise in data, but how do I communicate it effectively? And I think that communication piece is absolutely critical to it. And if anyone is thinking about how do I be successful in this field, it is around that, the marriage of those two things, rather than is some guy in Silicon Valley going to come up with a better technology. I don't think that's what it's about.
No, I couldn't agree with that more. In my opinion, despite the hands that didn't go up, I think this is the next $1 trillion market cap industry. How many years to get there, I can't comment, but that's what I believe, and I think some of the panelists believe that. And if you look at it from an India standpoint, whether it be in terms of talent, in terms of capability, and in terms of just a huge environment of diverse providers of data, consumers who give you real-time insights into what they do, it just is an enormous laboratory to create a whole new set of capabilities, technology, and transformative tools. So in my opinion, it's going to be a great thing. And industries evolve, right? So manufacturing today is very different from what it was 20, 30 years back. I mean, there are no assembly jobs, but people move on. They acquire new skills and new industries are created, and that same thing is going to happen. But I think we're pretty much out of time. So thanks, everybody. I think we could have discussed 100 other things in this time frame, but the panelists are around for you to ask more questions later on in the day, and move on to the next session. Thanks.
May I request the panelists to just stay on the stage? We have a small memento that we'd like to give. Professor Nanda, the director of IIMA Ahmedabad.
Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Thanks a lot.
I met a couple of years ago when you just joined.
Very good.
A very big thank you to all our big data panelists.
Really?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.